welcome back to my Mexican kitchen here in Switzerland. The recipe for today is chorizo Mexican style. That's right, Mexican style, not the Spanish one, so it's quite different, but it's just as yummy. The ingredients we're using, since it's Mexican style, are Mexican ingredients, and if you have a hard time finding any of the peppers or chilies used in the recipe, just write in the comments where you're writing from, which country or state or wherever, and I'll be glad to help you guys Google and see if there's any Mexican shops around in your area or restaurants which would gladly maybe sell you some of the products so that you can cook at home. So let's get started. The ingredients you need to make your Mexican chorizo are 1 kilogram of minced pork shoulder. The idea here is that you use 80% of a very lean meat and 20% of a fatty meat, so the shoulder usually is the most proper part of the pork to use to get this amount. 4 ancho peppers, 4 guajillo peppers, 7 árbol peppers, 12 garlic cloves, 2 dashes of powdered cloves, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 3 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of dry oregano, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cumin, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar, 1/4 of a cup of the chili cooking water, and this is optional, 1 gram of curing salt. Okay, so to start the recipe, what we're going to do is hydrate our chilies. First, we need to take off the stems and shake out the seeds. We're going to put about 4 cups of water in a saucepan or any pan you have, and we're going to soak our chilies in boiling water for about 10 minutes. The moment that you know your chilies are ready is if you poke them with a steak knife and the feel you get from them is super soft, like you're poking butter. If you get that kind of texture, you know your chilies are fully hydrated. The only issue will be with the little árbol peppers. Those don't hydrate so easily, but then I'll show you guys what we're going to do with these guys. Okay, so our chilies have hydrated. I have them here all in a plate. I separated only the árbol peppers, which I was telling you those don't hydrate so well. So what we're going to do is we're going to process those separately with the 1/4 of a cup of the cooking water from the chilies. And once you've processed them as well as you can manage, you're going to strain them. You only want the liquid. You're going to strain them into either a separate cup or something separate because we're going to need to process that liquid with all the other chili peppers we have, the guajillo and the ancho, all the spices, the salt, the curing salt, and the garlic. It's all going to go into here and we're going to process. But from the árbol peppers, we only want the water we strained. We don't want any pieces of the árbol peppers in here, so let's strain that. Before we continue, I am really sorry. I forgot to mention before to include the apple cider vinegar when you're processing everything else. I have this memory which is kind of like Dory's from Nemo. There's house jokes about me with my memory, but okay, don't forget to add the apple cider vinegar when you're processing, and like that you've used up all your ingredients. This is how your paste should look. It's quite thick, as you can see. It's not liquidy. It's a very thick paste. So the next step is we're going to leave it on our counter and let it cool down. It's hot from the cooking water. It's hot from the chilies. It's very hot. So we're going to let it cool down. Once it cools down, we're going to put it in our refrigerator for 2 to 3 hours so it really cools down. We want it to reach the temperature the meat has. The meat has to be in the refrigerator the whole time. You shouldn't take it out. The way chorizo works is you have to do the ingredients in cold. Both the meat has to be cold and the sauce has to be cold. So when we mix in the sauce, everything has to be cold, and you have to mix in quite fast so that the heat in your hands doesn't mess up the whole process. So everything has to be cold. So let's just let this cool down and then we'll have it in the fridge for a few hours. Okay, so the meat has been in the fridge. The sauce has been in the fridge. They have the same temperature. Now it's time to mix everything. We're gonna pour the sauce we made into the meat. We're gonna mix very well. If you have a glove, use it. If not, then just with your hands and wash well after. The part after that, once it's been mixed, is you're gonna use a big like strainer, sifter, whatever you have, to put the meat in. So beautiful, right? This one is kind of stained, but it serves its purpose. So the meat is gonna be in here, and it's gonna then sit on this bowl, and we're gonna have it in the fridge resting for 24 hours. The reason is you want your meat to really marinate, to get all those flavors like really sucked in, and also so that it loses liquid. It won't lose too much liquid because the marinade, the sauce we made, isn't very liquidy, it's very thick. But any liquid that it loses is good. You don't want a moist chorizo, it has to be drier. So 24 hours in the fridge, covered with plastic film so that it doesn't dry out, it doesn't get exposed to bacteria or anything. And tomorrow we can continue with the video. A new day has come and gone. 24 hours of our meat resting in the fridge. As you can see, there was no liquid, and that's thanks to the amount of liquid we put into the meat, the amount of vinegar, the amount of water it had. So since it wasn't so much, there wasn't much liquid to leak out of our meat. But the 24-hour wait makes the flavors get really soaked into the meat, so it tastes even more yummy. The next step is making our chorizo. Chorizo has a sausage form for those of you who have never had chorizo. If you don't, like I'm going to use my KitchenAid, I have the attachment to make sausages. If you don't have this, you can either just stuff a certain amount into a Ziploc bag. You can form your sausage using plastic film. You just like roll it up. You can get creative. There's tons of ways to do this. I'm going to use the sausage attachment because in Mexico chorizo, you usually let it dry out for about 36 hours at room temperature on the counter of your kitchen. You can see some butcher shops where they have it hanging out on the street or in a patio, like under the sun. I guess it must help in something because the chorizo over there is amazing. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put it in the chorizo casing and the sausage casing, and we're gonna let it dry out for 36 hours. My husband's going to help me because it's a bit tricky to stuff the chorizo and push the meat for one person. At least it's not easy for me, but I'll show you guys how to do it with the video. Okay, so we're finally done making the chorizo. The sexy hand you saw in there stuffing the chorizo was my husband's, not mine. That's why it's so hairy. But with teamwork, it's hard to do it on your own. So if you do have the machine and you do have the attachment and you want to make it with the original shape, you will need help. And otherwise, you can do what I suggested in the beginning of the video, just a Ziploc bag or plastic wrap, and the flavor is what you want to enjoy, not the shape. One thing is, before I forget, the casings, there are animal origin and there are vegan origin. You usually have to soak them in water and vinegar. The animal origin ones are a bit stinky, so this cleans it and gets the smell out. And I put the curing salt because these are on the counter for 36 hours, which means the curing salt is going to help preserve the meat so it doesn't go bad. And it also gives it a pinkish tone. If you're not going to dry out your sausages, you don't need to put the curing salt. I put it because of the drying process, but if not, you don't have to. But if you do dry it out, this is how it's going to look. It gets a more intense red color. These were frozen. Here's even the date when we made them. They're already vacuum sealed. I like doing small portions because it's easier for me to manage how much I want to defrost and not waste so much meat in case I don't want to cook too much meat. And well, basically, if you guys don't know what to do with chorizo, it's prepared kind of like minced meat if you take it apart, or you can grill it. You can make potatoes with chorizo, you can make bean wraps, you can make tacos, you can make a lot of things because it's like a minced meat. So you just season scrambled eggs with chorizo are really nice. But you can make a lot of stuff. It's up to your imagination. It's just a really nice seasoned meat that we enjoy a lot in Mexico. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and see you next time. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please watch the other videos. Just click on the links and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.